Колеги, продовжуємо наш робочий день.
We are going to continue our working day. The topic of this briefing, the Russian military presence in Donbas, and our representatives of the InformNapalm web portal. They're going to present infographics, and the speakers will be the members of the Editorial Board of the InformNapalm web portal, Gennadiy Kornev and Mykola Balaban. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming to our short presentation. We would like to tell today about the results actually of our 18-month systemic work in the plane of revealing and disclosure of the Russian presence of the Russian military on the territory of the Lugansk and Donetsk regions and partially in the Crimea. And actually what President Putin always said, that there are no Russian troops in the Donbas area. We took this quotation of his speech, and more than 18 months now we're trying to unveil this myth. In one of the major theses of I believe our presentation is the thesis of Ms. Pomerantsev in his book, Nothing is Truth and Everything is Possible. I would like to say that maybe this is the case in Russia, but not in Ukraine, and truth always will surface, you know. And actually the work of our big community lies in the fact just to reveal and to show the Russian aggression in Ukraine. What we are going to present to you today is the result of the huge efforts and the work of the researchers from the open source intelligence, the research with the open sources, among others, Irakli Communications, and the work of a big group of translators who agreed to help us on the free of charge basis, volunteer basis, to translate the materials of our research. Now I'd like to turn the mic to Gennadiy. Good afternoon. I believe that first of all I'm going to tell you about what we've done and how we did that. And then I will demonstrate to you the results. So we stopped the structured database. It's nothing special, Google Docs. It contains a number of tabs, which I'm going to tell you about later. And those tabs actually contain the references to different links to different Torah sites. So separate things are the articles put by our research to the site, and the table is a kind of cumulative collection which allows us to carry out some analysis and visualization. Visualization, we've been thinking for a long time what to do in order to be original, not to repeat what has been done by somebody else. And so we provided some kind of Bezier curves, very nice. If we can use that word nice, if we are talking about the warfare or the war. But we did that in order to connect different dislocation. Now the troops come from different places, coming here from different places of Russia, and when we can see them in the territory of Ukraine. For example, notorious 3rd SWAT brigade from Samara, whose presence was found in the territory of Ukraine, and a lot more. And this map shows only 50 incidents out of 115 incidents which are reflected here. So if we showed all those units and incidents which were revealed, it would be just an abstract graphics, I would put it this way. Now I have more details about the table of incidents. What we can see here, each incident has a specific number, and it's not has some importance, technical, visual. All those different incidents contain the links to database, And for 2 weeks now, this database is open. So if other project would like to cooperate with us, we'll be happy to share our database, because we have the same objective to bring to the people the informative truths. Now, the second is the place of where we found something. We provide this in the Russian language because it's more convenient, because our team members come from Russia, from Georgia, for them to be to feel more comfortable. We also translated that, we put on the slide, we have 4 translations, and soon we'll have 8 of those. So while we are here, some people are working, the volunteers, they were taking care of the translation. And accordingly, the region is associated with that. It simplifies the work with the database. And the next column is the date of incident. Not always we can actually specify that, because if you scroll this table, you'll see that not all the incidents have a specific date, but this is accounted for the fact that when the Russian militaries, when they post those photographs, they can do that 1 year later. So it's very difficult to specify the date. Now we try to specify the date. Sometimes it's impossible. That's why we are talking about the accuracy about 1 month. Now we are talking, coming back to the articles, we have a number of links. I opened some of them. In some of the articles, you can find the date more or less specific. Next, also we have the English translation for each of those incidents. Well, it's clear why, just to disseminate this information. Moreover, very often we are contacted by the media from Portugal or from Poland, some kind of foreign media to whom the Russian language is not something they can understand, so they translate those materials into their own mother tongue, and when we have the English version, this facilitates their task for understanding. Next column, in now one more tab. Actually, we developed kind of classification or categorization in order to categorize certain incident. This classification is based on the circumstances of the reviewing this or not incident, etc. As you see, this is localized. I mentioned before Ukrainian, Russian, English, Polish, Spanish language, whatever. And some of the languages still have to appear. I believe that by the end of this month, everything will be translated completely. What this can be in in social networks, selfies. For example, where a typical article, Russian paratrooper takes selfie or takes a photograph in the Lugansk region. So they were not, not very. Somehow they posted that photograph. Let's talk a bit how we determine the location where this or not the photo was taken. This is a classical case. The person either intentional, non-intentional, even did not take care of to remove the geotag. So we have the special point, the geographical point where this photograph was taken before being posted. They sometimes this preserve those photos even this information hasn't been posted. Anyway, our experts can establish what has been done and how it's been done according to specific landscape or relief features. Maybe some of us watched some Ostrovsky movie, A Selfie Soldier. Actually, he's telling about this technology which came to us from the West, and we are not going to speak about that much detail. If the article doesn't contain geotagging as we have it here, anyway, we can still establish that,
also selfies in social networks. Then analysis mentioned in the so-called Novorossiya propaganda. Let's find such a case. Just a second. Did we have such incidents, such cases? Yes, we did. Okay. Not to squander your time, you will have an opportunity to look into this in a table. Well, this may be like this. We had a case when a videographer of a Russian propaganda channel was filming about a military base, and there, against the background, there was a white Volvo with orange stripe. Oh no, this was a blue stripe. Well, in any case, it turned out that this Volvo was used for transporting the Buk rocket launcher that was used to down M17. So this analysis led to the fact that the gunmen, the militants themselves, have shown that they still have this truck and they haven't surrendered it to anywhere, although the world community has more than once urged to do this. So in this way we establish where from people come and what sort of machinery they have. Okay. Look, I'll add something to Gennadiy. For us, we think that this database is interested, first of all, because in Ukraine and I think abroad as well, this is the biggest structured database. It is structured according to different types and circumstances, and it is structured to inform about the Russian presence in Donbas. Of course, there are attempts on different resources to do infographics for 10, 15, or 20 such facts. We have 115 and increasing. So this is the number of the cases that we detected, and you see that this number allows to arrive at some conclusions, to watch dynamics and some trends. From which territories, from which military units they use more, you can see which are less used. These trends are very important. The second reason why we did this, for us the philosophy is that we do not want to provide a ready-made pill of information to a person. We want to show the gamut of information, and our reader will make their own conclusions. We try not to impose. This is the second point, and our third very important point is, you know, we spent a lot of time and energy for this, is many languages are used in our project and in our output. We want the maximum number of people in Ukraine, abroad, in Russia, and European countries could read, see, and make their own conclusions. So these are the three whales on which our effort stands. And you gave me an opportunity to download the new graphics. Okay, here it is. So, if we are talking about several languages, many languages used, this is the full localized table chart in Russia, in Russian, and we'll also dwell on bilingualism, how we work, and why this is important to develop this trend. Because at the moment our information war is complicated, is difficult for Ukraine, and there's space for improvement. And of course, there's a space for improvement in the international sphere in cooperation with the West and in the East and wherever. So such information in English, German, Korean, Chinese allows people who don't know anything about this conflict and who depend on whatever is put in their heads by Russia Today and other mouthpieces of Russian propaganda. We also know that Russians work in a very masterful way with propaganda. So this information in English gives an opportunity to pro-Ukrainian local bloggers or people who are interested, who just do not read general newspapers or watch general television, find this information. And this is very well found through Google in the language that we use, and use it as a basis, as a ground to convince themselves and their surroundings, their socium and their community about what is really going on in our country. Okay, let's come back to the chart, and probably we have to leave some time for questions. So I won't tell you about the categories. You will look for themselves, but now, so that you see the systemic work, these are our localization. We still lack a lot in Portuguese, but for instance, even 2 weeks ago, we had a problem with the Ukrainian text. We published a call, appeal for people on Facebook, asking whether they would like to use their energy to help us with the Ukrainian, and within 1 day they volunteered to do 50 articles and have done this within 3 or 4 days. And we have another component of this table chart. This is the units. In yellow, we are designated the units about which we don't have full information. We do not hide that we don't still have full information on many cases, as we are not financed by the state, and we are doing all this on our own. It happens so that we post an information online, and some persons who were witnesses to this, sometimes Russians, sometimes retired military, come to us to help. They advise us, they help to identify the machinery, the person, a locality, and so on. So the database is being increased even now, and if you open some old version, you may see that this is being worked on. At the moment, 9 readers are looking through this, but I think that we will post it now, and we will have more readers, because at the moment we did not publish it before the press conference in the UCMC. Here you see the number of the unit. This is a universal indicator. It has its number, and every unit has its number, and this helps to identify the unit here. And we also highlight, the formula is very simple, which finds all the incidents connected to this unit. So if you are a journalist and you are writing a article about the 3rd Rifle Division of the Russian Army, you see that there are 6 incidents connected to it. Then there's another brigade, which is a record holder from Gudauta in Abkhazia. Of course, this does not mean, you cannot correlate that if the military unit appears a lot in our infographics, then they are the most represented in Donbas. Maybe they just have some military servicemen active in social networks, so maybe our intelligence have investigated them a lot. But we hope that when the number of cases in our database reaches 1,000, then we will be able to talk about some systemic analysis, and we'll see which of the military go here more often. And of course, we will use this more often and often with the flow of time. And if we go, first of all, to social networks to glean information, but we are ready to cooperate with the state structures and the security service. If they help us, then this database will be fuller. At the moment, we are limited almost entirely to people who are active in social networks.
And currently, there is DEB signature, there's localization infographics. In this way, we have some of the other languages added. For example, we enter, for example, we did not say, for example, why not in my mother tongue, Belarusian or Portuguese. And thus, people start to translate what we have, and we get a kind of multilingual option. And accordingly diagram, I believe after what we've said, you can understand yourself. You know, somebody said that it reminds some kind of movements or some of the harmful insects. This is a visualization which demonstrates specifically here in this part how numerous, even given our restricted resources, we can see how many military, Russian military units de facto present in Ukraine. And behind each of these Bezier curve, we can find this something like this article with detailed analysis, which reveals all the subtle and not so subtle nuances, how the people got here to the Ukraine, why, and so on. So perhaps we can switch over to the Q&A session, and if we can, some more time, we can add some more information. Microphone, please. The question is, can you sum up, based on these 115 incidents or cases which you were talking about, what specifically Russian military units you revealed in the territory Ukraine, what is their specialization? Maybe you know the number of the professional military guys from Russia have been here over the last 18 months, and maybe you can comment not only one case, but maybe two or three, if you're talking about visualization. Okay, let's use our table to answer a question. Look, we revealed about 60 military units. Mostly we are talking about motorized infantry units and no, only comments here. Well, first of all, you know, if you scroll it, you can see that, first of all, we are talking about mechanized paratroopers. And sometimes, what specific number of the military guys from Russia? The number where you found that, you know, I'm researcher, can do that without scrolling. Can you tell us about the figures, just to sum it up? Maybe I repeat myself. I do not guarantee without scrolling, because I use not to speak, but to demonstrate and to prove. We found 60 military units. The number of the servicemen, in some cases we can talk accurate figure, in some cases no, not. So this is not an easy task. Knowing let's say the general number of the military units or battalions or the general structure of military brigade, we can come to a conclusion if there are 5 military guys from the same brigade or from the same battalion, it's high probability that the whole battalion is now in Ukraine. I cannot give you the accurate figure because this would be unprofessional. We are thinking about now how to, based on these social networks, how to provide this specific number of the servicemen. Can you talk about several cases, 5, 6, I don't know, and there are a lot of those here. Okay, let's do it. Maybe some of the most interesting. Maybe can join me or step in, you know. You proceed.
Let's go by cases. This is going to be faster. 19th Detached Motorized Infantry Brigade, Vladikavkaz, Northern Ossetia, 74 Detached Motorized Infantry Brigade, Yurga, Chita region, the 19th Brigade, incidents 22 and 59. Let's find case number 22. We find our article. Well, I'm not responsible for the quality and speed of the internet. Okay, on the border of Ukraine. So basically, if the headline says on the border, then they are on the border, but the text will tell us where they are specifically. I think that this is Novozovsk. I think that they've been spotted in Novozovsk. Let's see some other, let's look at some other case. Number 59, case number 59. Amfrosivka, Donetsk region, you can open and see the detailed. Yeah, you want this to on camera. Oh, this is a very interesting article about the drone unit. These are people who correct the artillery fire, direct the artillery fire of Russia, and they were detected next to somewhere in the vicinity of Donetsk. And maybe there will be a photo from Donbas Arena Stadium. Yes. We took a video of Zvezda television channel. We found a person, Mykola Balaban, who is the senior operator of Orlan 10 drone. This is one of the most popular drones in Russia, and here is Donbas Arena, a very symbolical depiction of the stadium in Ukraine, and this is the same person on the video of Zvezda, Russian telechannel, and here he is in Donbas Arena, and here he is also in Donbas Arena, but this is the photo of some service premises there, and here he is during the training in Kolomna, where they have a training center for drone operators, which is the biggest training center of the Russian army, where security servicemen and army servicemen and also border guards are being trained. Can you tell us whether any official department or agency is interested in your material, like the Ministry of Justice, who are preparing claims against Russia? And has anyone asked you to sell this material? Our group is actively cooperating with Ukrainian military security forces, and some of our materials we do not publish first. That may provide some operative use. We just pass them on to the armed forces of Ukraine or other structures. Secondly, officially, we have not transpassed over any official documents, but there was a talk with the representatives of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, and they said that our materials can be used in public, not in criminal cases, but in public cases at the United Nations organizations as proof of the presence of Russian troops, and it's proof of Russian aggression against Ukraine. Our English version, we can analyze the traffic and see who is reading us, and we can establish not only the country, but some IP addresses from officials institutions. We know that embassies read it, the Pentagon, also French and German intelligence read this. We don't know whether this is our competence within our authority to pass on information to these agencies. I think that they see all the public materials and they have an analysts who can analyze this information. But if they turn to us with a specific request, of course we do help, because what you see is the public side of our activity. This is a research, but there's a lot of research that we do not publish because, and some research of social networks, because as soon as we publish them, then they erase a profile, and maybe not a single social profile that we quote here, you won't find them active. They are being erased according to a special technology, because first of all they change the name and surname, and then they erase the account in order to say that there was no such account at all. But still we use Google Cache and a number of archive services, and just at the moment when we publish the article, a person goes through archive services and collects everything. And there's a series of cases, court cases in the US, which recognize that such services may be used as testimony and evidence. I don't know how they will recognize this in Russia, because they do have their own legislation, but at the level of the Western world, this evidence will have its power. Do you cooperate with what cases of cooperation with the security service or military prosecutor's office you can quote? Well, we just do them. We cannot disclose this. Everything that's open is here. And of course, our official armed structures know about this, and we also think it is very important to launch this trend of fashion, so that people today, they really use a lot of their time for the argument which is not needed for arguing, like dialectics of betrayal, victory, and shame is rather redundant now, and to do analysis is very useful. And by the way, we have people on the occupied territories who do this, and people in trenches as well, because soldiers do not shoot every time. So I think that this hobby, to put it in this word, is very useful in our country, and a housewife or an intelligence officer or a student may be engaged in this. So one of the aims is also not only to attract the attention of special services, but also to attract the attention of ordinary citizens, both in Ukraine and abroad, because the cause of information protection is ours. No one will do this instead of us. There's no state official body that will do this instead of us. I have two questions. Maxim Mayorov, the Ukrainian National Memory Institute, could you tell us more about your cooperation with the Atlantic Council and your appeal to Wikipedia editors so that they use the data from your database to fill Ukrainian, Russian, and English language articles, to embed your information into the articles about the war in Ukraine and some specific military units.
Okay, there's a question just saying how good you are. Atlantic Council, the report which was published, what's the name? Navalny published. No, Nemtsov could not at that time publish anything. So that was translated by InformNapalm. We are approached by Atlantic Council. They cooperated with rather well-known research structure, not only with Bellingcat but with us as well, and we did the translation of that report for them. By the way, soon it's going to be published in Ukrainian language. It was presented in the Verkhovna Rada, and everybody was happy, and they said how bad the situation is with the research, which was rather ridiculous because we were not present in the session hall of the Verkhovna Rada. We should say that not everything is that bad with this research, and there is a community dealing with that. As for Wikipedia, actually we do everything in order to, as a result, to work with Wikipedia. I don't think it would be realistic to cooperate with Russian Wikipedia because Wikipedia is rather very much controlled, let's put it this way, by the people who are associated with the Russian special services and propaganda. In the Ukrainian segment of Wikipedia, this is possible. I believe that we can actually send this information in the English language. Wikipedia can use all those materials to start the criminal cases against Russian military guys. Sure, definitely. If those criminal cases will be open anyway, anytime, but we hope we do. But 2 cases for sure have been sent to the court. Are there any clarification or questions? None. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity given to us to talk about that. I believe that more people will be involved in order to translate in different languages, so that as many people as possible could be aware of the crimes committed on our soil. I have a request to the journals. If you're going to publish some reports on this event, please approach either our editor Manbutka or our Facebook page so that we could provide you with more information. We have the graphics and the links. Or those who wish to do that, or just use the information which we already published. In the end, I am going to demonstrate to you our contacts or addresses. Here, immediately Russian press is the address of the base, which we demonstrated in InformNapalm.org. You could put the prefix of the certain language, UA is Ukrainian, etc. Russian presence, the articles which contains all those visualization and the information. And we can find this information on your site. Yes, absolutely. We're going to publish that immediately after we leave these premises. Thank you. And our next briefing in 15 minutes, we are going to have the Skype communication